Hey, Dr. Jon Finn here. Welcome to the Habit Mechanic podcast. Right now, you can get my new best-selling book, Train Your Brain for the AI Revolution, at tougherminds.co.uk. The digital book, audiobook, and physical book are all available at a special price that you won't find anywhere else.
Welcome to a special Tougher Minds podcast and a shorter version than normal. We want to talk about planning and reflecting today because those have been some concepts which have been central to a series of successful webinars that Dr. Jon Finn, the Tougher Minds founder and managing director, has recently staged. He's reached over 1,500 people with those and has had a great response. Jon joins us live on the line now. Hi there, Jon. Tell us more just briefly about the recent webinars you've staged.
We've been trying to help people be more stress-free and productive and well whilst they're working from home. Obviously, lots of our clients have not been able to have their employees in the office, so they've had to work from home. It's the change of context of people, brings about new challenges. On top of that, we're in the lockdown situation, which piles on the challenges of managing our sleep, our diet and our exercise. Children at home as well, having to homeschool. So just trying to give people the space to step back, reflect and plan to make their life easier from a well-being, productivity, performance, health, happiness perspective.
Yes, as you say, the circumstances we all find ourselves in because of the COVID-19 crisis is bringing additional pressure and has shifted many people into the working from home mode, of course. So, Jon, why is planning and reflecting on your day, your broader life and your work, all of that, why is that so important, and especially now?
What we need to recognise is that most of what we're doing most of the time is habitual behaviour. It's mindless. We're running on habits. We approximate at least 98% of how we think and what we do is automatic or semi-automatic. And that would equate to maybe for every 50 things your brain is doing right now, you're only aware of one of them. So often we look for quick tips and quick bits of advice that can help us. But knowing what we need to do isn't enough. We need to ultimately take that insight and build it into habits. So in order to do that, we need to step back and reflect and think about our habits. What habits are helping us to be at our best? What habits are getting in the way of us being at our best? And broadly, the habits that we people find helpful are reflecting on habits around their sleep, their diet, their exercise, how they're managing their emotions and their stress, how they're managing things like their confidence, things like their productivity. And all those things are obviously interconnected. And then once we've recognised what we might be doing that's helpful, but also what we might be doing that's unhelpful, we can then make a plan to help us to refine and tweak our habits in those areas. And we've obviously been working in this space for quite a long time. And what we found over the years is that it's really helpful if you have a systematic way of doing this. A monthly system, a weekly system, and a daily system. And there are obviously lots of different ways out there to plan and reflect systematically, but we've actually built our own, and we've packaged that into something called the Me Power Wellbeing and Performance Planner. And in its simplest sense, this is a 4-week training program that allows you to set some long-term goals into the distant future, maybe 10 years or so, but then connect that back to the next 4 weeks. What are the things that I need to be working on in the next 4 weeks to help me to make progress towards those goals? And then what do I need to do this week to help me to make progress towards my 4-week goals? And then what do I need to do today to help me to make progress towards my weekly goals? So it's giving people that simple and practical reflection and planning process. And to get this right, we have to have the daily cycle of the start of the day, assessing things like how well did I do my best to be at my best yesterday, maybe out of 10, where was I on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best I could be, 1 being the worst I could be. Reflecting on things like our sleep and our diet and our exercise. Timelining our day using something we call the willpower story. But essentially, watching ourselves intelligently and then planning to take some simple and practical steps that allow us to actually get done what we need to get done from both a well-being perspective and a productivity and performance perspective.
So this simple, systematic way of planning and reflecting then is set out in this Me Power Planner. People can download this from a page I know you've set up to help people, coaching.tougherminds.co.uk. That's coaching.tougherminds.co.uk. You'll see the planner on that page, and there are some other resources too, other tools to help people, some of which are free. So go to coaching.tougherminds.co.uk. We'll talk more about that in a few moments, Jon, and some of the other resources available. But just on the process of planning and reflecting, and specifically the Me Power Planner, which you've just outlined, what would the typical time commitment be for someone engaging in this 4-week process you've outlined?
In the first instance, you need 30 minutes to an hour to plan out what you're going to be doing over the next 4 weeks. And then you've got a daily commitment of about 10 minutes, 5 minutes at the start of the day, 5 minutes at the end of the day, and then a little bit of time at the end of each week to reflect and to plan. So the time commitment is pretty minimal. We talk about spending minutes to save hours. But I think the real important part of reflecting well, so we call self-reflection self-watching. We need to watch ourselves more, is that we need to do that intelligently. So it's easy to say, well, I'm feeling stressed and I'm feeling overwhelmed and I feel like I'm procrastinating too much. That's a form of self-watching, but it's not intelligent self-watching. If you're going to watch yourself intelligently, you need to understand how your brain works. You need to have a sophisticated way of analysing your habits and a sophisticated way of planning to build new, small, helpful habits connected to your short, medium, and long-term goals. And that's what we've specifically designed the planner to do. So the planner is an intelligent self-watching tool. You know, we've used this now. Well, we developed it over about 10 years, using all we know about behavioural science, neuroscience, and psychology. But we've designed it so that it's not just for adults. You can use this as a school pupil as well. So it really is a transferable tool and learning throughout the life cycle. But planning and reflection, as simple as they sound, there are nuances in there. So it has to be intelligent self-watching and also sophisticated planning. Learning how to plan well is a skill, but we've tried to design the planner to make that all as intuitive and as simple to do as possible.
So fantastic then that these key processes of planning and reflection are guided by the planner and set out in very practical, digestible, easy to follow terms. Just a reminder, you can get your copy of the Me Power Planner at coaching.tougherminds.co.uk, coaching.tougherminds.co.uk. That's a special page set up to share these resources. There are other free resources on there as well, so do have a look at that. Jon, what benefits might people see immediately when they begin this process of intelligent self-watching?
The power of stepping back and removing yourself from the busyness of just doing what you always did in itself is very helpful. We've seen the rise of ideas like mindfulness, etc. Because we are so mindless, being more mindful of what we're doing is very powerful. But that's just the starting line. I think the power of things like the ape brain reflection tools is that it helps people to quickly organise their behaviour into tangible, helpful things they're doing, but also tangible, unhelpful things that they're doing, so that they can actually start to take practical action. Psychology is a very intangible idea. So the more tangible we can make it, the more we can actually use psychological insight, behavioural science insight, neuroscience insight to help us to actually work on ourselves in a really productive way. And I think connected to that, because the planner breaks everything down into small steps, once you've stepped back, reflected, and made a small plan, people quickly start to see progress, whether it's just progress on eating a little bit more healthily, might be one extra piece of fruit a day, progress on just sleeping a little bit more, might be just got an extra 10 minutes last night in the first instance, progress on just doing a little bit more exercise, might be I got out and did an extra 15 minutes of walking, progress on just doing a little bit more clever work that day, then connecting to building my confidence up. So all these little steps, they get interconnected, and it's all about helping people to not just know what they want to achieve in the future, but giving them the simple and practical steps they can take to achieving those goals. Often people start with being too ambitious with the changes that they want to make. And they might be able to sustain that for a couple of days or a week or so, but quickly it becomes overwhelming. So it's about educating people that it's good to have big, ambitious, meaningful goals to work towards. And the FAM story tool allows people to create those goals. But you also need these micro steps that allow your brain to change and adapt by that very powerful process of neuroplasticity, so that you are building sustainable new habits. And also helping people to recognize, well, here are all the factors around me and inside my mind that influence what I'm doing every day, and helping people to plan to take more control over those influences through things like habit building plans are very powerful. So we get caught in the trap of knowing what we should be doing versus being able to do it regularly enough to build it into the new habit. So the planner is helping people to take that step from the knowing to the doing, but being able to do things regularly enough to actually convert their behavior into new habits that are sustainable.
So just to take one example out of many that perhaps people are experiencing at the moment in the unprecedented circumstances we find ourselves in. Say, for instance, someone has been compelled to work from home because of the lockdown. Perhaps they're not being as productive as they feel they might be. Perhaps they're procrastinating on some work they might have to do. This planner and the processes it helps people to implement would help them to challenge and improve that problem straight away then.
Yeah, so it helps you to analyse it's 24 hours in a day, and you can be doing either helpful things in that 24 hours or unhelpful things. Helpful things for you progressing towards you being healthier, happier, performing to your potential, or unhelpful things that are getting in the way of you being healthy, happy, and performing to your potential. So if you're recognising that you're procrastinating on important jobs during the day, then using a tool called the Willpower Story, you'll be able to plan how to do less procrastination and more efficient and effective work. So yeah, it gives you not only the ability to step back and reflect in an intelligent way, but also the tools to plan so that you can take more control and not just do that once, but to keep practicing those helpful behaviours so that they become habits, more automatic.
Now, the planner is available at the coaching.tougherminds.co.uk page, as we've said. Also available on that page are a range of free resources. Just give us a brief overview, Jon, about some of the other resources that are available to people there. Some of them free of charge. You mentioned the APE test for one, but there are others as well, I understand.
Yeah, so there are lots of little tools there, I suppose, that all connect back into the planner, but they're not the complete package. So there's some ways to think about having successful days and successful weeks, some simpler planning and reflection exercises. There's a My Daily 8 Brain management planning, habit planning tool, which is again connected to the Me Power Planner. There is a really good ebook on there, How to Be My Best, which is a really good introduction to the big ideas that we cover in the Tougher Minds program. Equally, there are some audio masterclasses which give us same in-depth coverage of the big ideas. It's connected to Tougher Minds, starting with most of what we're doing is a habit, and well-being and performance are all about habits ultimately. So yeah, there's loads of free things that you can get stuck into and take a deep dive into Tougher Minds.
Well, that sounds fantastic. People should definitely check that out at coaching.tougherminds.co.uk. Just to conclude then, Jon, what would you say? What would your final message be to people who are no doubt experiencing some trials and tribulations working from home or in disrupted working patterns in the current circumstances?
Yeah, well, I'll relate back to one of our acronyms, the SWAP cycle, which is self-watch, aim, plan. So if we're going to make helpful changes to what we're doing, the first thing we need to do is self-watch. That means stepping back and reflecting, almost like putting a CCTV camera on yourself. We have to do that intelligently. That's why we've created things like the APE test. But once you've identified the helpful things that you're doing, but possibly more important, the unhelpful things, you've got to focus in on just one small thing that you'd like to do differently. We call that the aim. So we self-watch, we make an aim. Often we make our aims too big, so they're unachievable. We've got to make these tiny little aims, these little adjustments that we want to make. It's good to know where you want to get to. So I'd like to get an extra hour's sleep per night. You've got to start with a tiny adjustment. And then finally, you've got to have a plan. So we self-watch, we make an aim, we make a plan. And there's really helpful ways to make plans and there's really unhelpful ways to make plans. So you've got to work out how to make a plan that's simple and practical that actually allows you to make sustainable change. And essentially the Me Power Wellbeing and Performance Planner is a SWAP tool that allows you to self-watch, make aims and make plans.
Well, Jon, thank you for your time. If anybody wants to follow Tougher Minds, you can do that on social media, in particular in the next few weeks and days. Look out for resources being shared on Twitter. It's at Tougher Minds. Also on LinkedIn as well. Follow Tougher Minds on LinkedIn and Dr. Jon Finn on LinkedIn. And you'll see some helpful information being shared on social media also. And don't forget, of course, you can get your hands on the Me Power Planner at coaching.tougherminds.co.uk. coaching.tougherminds.co.uk. You can download the Me Power Planner from there, and also on that page a range of free resources, the 8 brain test, other tools and resources there to help you if you're working from home, if you're having well-being or performance challenges. This has been a shorter Tougher Minds podcast. We hope you found it beneficial, and thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Habit Mechanic podcast. If you liked it, please subscribe and tell someone else about one of the ideas or insights that you found most interesting.